Live. Okay, awesome. We are live in our Togetherness Team Women's Edition Facebook community. I'm so excited to introduce you to someone very special. First, I want to welcome you. I'm Melissa Parker, and today we're going to chat with somebody, like I said, very special to me. This is my dear friend, Vera Ventura. Hey, Vera.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here.
And thank you so much for working through the technical back part of this. Oh my gosh, so much goes into it. And you've been such a great help for me as I'm navigating through all of this. So, but I wanted to come in here today and especially talk about this because Vera is going to be conducting some trainings in our Facebook group starting tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is going to be a Zoom, so you can watch it via Zoom if you're not here in our Facebook community. And it'll also be live in our group, just like we're doing here today. So this training is going to be on natural solutions for children and teens, basically to help our children that might have autism spectrum disorders, ADHD, hyperactivity, depression, anxiety, and sensory issues, you know, anything that can kind of help or make our children feel off in the world. We want them to feel good, right? And so Vera is such a knowledgeable source on all things that are natural that might be able to help our children. So we don't necessarily have to go that pharmaceutical route if we don't want to. I think going low and slow and starting off with natural solutions is always the best way to go. Plus, it's a lot of fun. I know my children really enjoy utilizing natural solutions and exploring those options together with me. So I'm excited. And also, I hope that Vera will be coming back in here and doing some resource trainings for us on women's health too. So we look forward to that. I'm so very excited, but I'm really thankful. And what I wanted to do is just kind of talk about how I met Vera, because this is a group for, you know, bringing women together and, you know, especially highlighting women that have very inspirational stories. Vera is a warrior. She is a mom on a mission. She has an amazing backstory. And the way that I kind of was introduced to Vera is really interesting because during COVID last year, you know, I was going through a lot of anxiety myself, trying to be a homeschool to my two kids, one that has ADHD and one that has autism spectrum disorders. And it was a lot trying to work through that on my own too. I was going through a lot of anxieties, and my kids were too. And so I thought maybe there was something kind of natural out there. I'm scrolling through Instagram. I don't know how I quite came across Vera's profile, but let me just tell you, once I found her, I read a little bit about her background and her story. I love how she is authentic and open about her story. She's battling breast cancer too, and it's just very inspirational how she'll really let you into this, and then learning more about essential oils and how this can help us in a natural way. And then also just being entertained by Vera. She is amazing at marketing and branding and what she's done. And she just kind of brings you in a really entertaining, fun way. I have to say, even my husband loves to scroll through her Instagram feed. And we just get the biggest laugh out of watching her. And, you know, her joy for life and everything that she's kind of gone through is just very, very inspiring. So I want to kind of just stop on that point and let Vera kind of talk about a little bit about her background, her bio, what inspires her and what helps her through all of her challenges, because this is what we're here, you know, to learn all about.
Wow, thank you, Melissa, for that beautiful introduction. And I'm really grateful to be here and to share my experience with some of you guys. Yeah, as Melissa shared, I'm a mom of two, and I actually come from being a public school teacher. So I was a public school teacher for about, gosh, I think it was like 7 years. And I got my master's in education technology from Harvard. And before that, I had worked with students in the public school from grades 9 to 12th graders. And then I also, around that time, I recognized my own addiction. I had an addiction to like flour and sugar and drugs. So primarily pot, alcohol, addictive relationships with men. And it manifested in the sense that I was overeating and then throwing it up. So I was bulimic for about 8 years. And I was lost. I had trouble focusing. I really couldn't pay attention in school for more than a minute. This is before I did my graduate school work. And so I ended up hitting a real rock bottom when I was about 23. I hit a real desperate point. I had just graduated from college, you know, I was the life of the party. I had a lot of friends and I did okay in college. I traveled around the world. I went to India, but my soul was dead. Like I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know what color I liked. Like today I know what colors I like. I mean, if you go into my house, you see like I've decorated every little nook and cranny of it. I know what I like. I know what clothing I like to wear. Then I just didn't know. I was just lost and I had a lot of trauma that I was repressing. And so I hit a rock bottom and I ended up joining a 12-step program for food addiction. And you've probably heard of 12-step programs for alcohol addiction or food or drug addiction, but there are now programs for food addiction. And I didn't identify myself as someone who had like a food addiction. That seems so extreme to me. I just had like a little problem and sometimes I would throw up in order to stay thin. But that clearly was a really deep-rooted issue. And so around 23, 24, I started attending a 12-step program in the area that I had moved to because I was not native to this area. I'm actually from Florida and I moved to the Northeast with my boyfriend at the time. And so I started going to these meetings and that was really one of the first steps I had of enlightenment. And we all find enlightenment in many different ways. And I really hope that, you know, you have found your path to what brings you peace and joy and contented life, you know, in general, just a contented life in general. But for me, I didn't have that at the time. And I had to learn what that was. And so I started becoming part of this program, and it's a free program. I mean, anybody can do it. They've helped, you know, thousands of people all around the world with addiction. And so I put down my drug of choice, and my drug of choice was many things. It wasn't just one thing. It was men. It could be shopping. I mean, it was flour and sugar, you know, processed flour and sugar. It was pot. It was alcohol. And I put that stuff down at 24, and it was like the whack-a-mole. You know, I put something down and then something would then pop up, you know? And that was the journey of sitting with myself, and every day, you know, sitting with myself for 30 minutes in the morning. We call it quiet time or meditation, going to meetings, connecting with other people, talking about the you know, when the emotions come up, you know, the extreme emotions. I didn't know where to put those emotions. The way that my family dealt with emotions was by yelling and screaming. So to actually deal with the emotions and process them and feel the feelings and not run away from the feelings was the journey in itself. And it's something that never gets old. I mean, I had an experience yesterday where something happened and it really shook me up, but I didn't have a reaction to it. I could feel it. I could feel it coming up in me, and then my children were with me, but they had no idea because I don't react. I have stopped reacting. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like my husband and I still have moments where I can lose my top a little bit, but the reality is it's so much better than how I used to be. Anyway, so that was a huge change in my life. And that has been consistent, and that has been the same. I have been doing the same thing for 17 years regarding my program, my meditation. And I needed a place to put my energy, you know, because I would have this energy that I, you know, would deflate with drugs and alcohol and food. And so then I became, you know, I was drawn to yoga. So I became a yoga teacher in 2012. That's when I was actually introduced to essential oils, because I also, again, needed something to occupy my mind and my focus. And I love learning. I discovered when I put down all my addictions, I have this quest for knowledge and learning, and that was the thing about plant medicine, is that it never got old. And I grew up surrounded by pharmaceuticals. I was put on an ADD medicine when I was very young. I didn't know about natural solutions, and that's why I was drawn to it. And I didn't become, a business person by joining. No, I just wanted to learn about natural healing. And then I gradually was like, wow, I should be sharing this. Everybody should have this in their home. Everybody should learn about what, tea tree does, and what, how to avoid colds. And so then I got married to somebody who has only known me in this 12-step program, which is very different from my other friends. And I continued on the path of teaching in high school. But then I was drawn to this whole other, like, yoga, meditation, mindfulness. And so I would do my little high school job. And then on the sidelines, I would be on retreats doing meditation, or I'd join a certification program where I'd learn about, mindfulness and meditation at UMass Medical Center. And I just kind of followed my passion. And then as it turned out, years later, I had my second child, and my position at the high school was basically eliminated. And that propelled me into the direction that I am in now, where I'm with my children, but I'm also educating people about yoga, meditation, plant medicine, holistic healing, and also the 12 steps, because that changed my life so much, because I am truly an addict and I come from addicts. So that being said, Melissa, and I'm sorry to kind of go all over the place, but that is my foundation. At the end of the day, my connection with my higher power, so you call it God, the universe, it could be anything, your cat, it doesn't matter, as long as it's something greater than you. That really has been my foundation. So in 2019, when I was diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer, how did I deal with it? And so it's one of those situations where I have a friend now who was just diagnosed with melanoma that had spread into his brain, and he has different lesions, and he's always crying. He's very emotional. Whenever he talks about it, it's very intense. And not to say that I didn't have intense feelings, but because I had been doing the work up until this point, I feel like the way that I interacted with the news was very calm. And it was more like unwrapping a present that you don't know what's inside the present. Actually, it's not a present at all. It's unwrapping the layers of an onion. That's a better analogy. So I would just try to get more information. Okay, they say I have breast cancer. Tell me more. Okay, it's that kind of cancer. Tell me more. Okay, how did I get this kind of cancer? Tell me more. So that would be the way that I would look at the cancer journey, is that you just don't know until you know. And so what's the point in getting emotional about it if you don't know what the options are? And so I decided to go the path of Western medicine, but then also integrate all the Eastern practices that I have been doing: meditation, yoga, essential oils. Frankincense is an amazing oil for white blood cells and to help with inflammation. So I was learning also what was going to be holistic turmeric, things like that I have used throughout my journey. But at the same time, I was like, I don't want to mess around. There's so much research, and every cancer is different. So I've had a friend who have cancers that are not very researched, and they have gone completely to the Eastern path and done their thing. With Western medicine, breast cancer is so prevalent, unfortunately. And as it was revealed, those layers, it was revealed that I have a genetic predisposition to this specific cancer, because there was a lot of red flags. It was like, she's so young and she has bilateral breast cancer. That means both sides. So let's look at the genetics, because that's rare, and you're really healthy. For some, I would be known as the pinnacle of health. People, whenever they learn that I had cancer, they're like, well, you're so healthy. And it sometimes it has nothing to do with your health. It could just be a bad luck of genetics. In that sense, this is what happened. And so I went through a double mastectomy. I went through reconstruction and chemotherapy. And again, calling on the strength of all the things that I have already shared about the yoga, the meditation, my community. It really does take a village when you're going through that. I have had so much love, and I'm very open about the journey on Facebook and Instagram. And I think that helped me immensely in that journey, because I would get this immediate feedback of love and support, and just like felt surrounded by a great light. And then I went through all that stuff, and then I was diagnosed with brain cancer 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago in February. I started having really intense pulsations in my head, and I couldn't balance, and I stopped teaching yoga. And it was really frightening, because I was like, I can't live my life and enjoy my life if I am in misery. And I felt that I was in misery. I can't enjoy my children. It was very painful. And even thinking about it gets me a little teary. So we started to, again, unwrap, and I tried a lot of different solutions, acupuncture and, chiropractor, but nothing was doing the job. Nothing was doing the job. And finally, as it turned out, I hit like a real roadblock, and I just I would pass out. I'd pass out, I'd throw up, and I'd have nosebleeds. And then finally, my husband took me to an emergency room, and it was seen in that emergency room that I had a big mass in the back of my head that was brain. It was a big tumor, it was a big tumor. It's been growing for a long time. It was linked to the original breast cancer. So breast cancer in the brain. They never did any MRIs after they did the chemo. So this could have been there for a long time. We don't even know. Could have been there from the original cancer. We don't know. But when you do chemotherapy, it only kind of goes from the neck down, because it doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier. And that's really important to know, that if you or someone has been diagnosed with cancer on the head, do an MRI of the brain, or even the breast, do an MRI of the brain. And it's not standard medical practice right now to do that. So once I was diagnosed, once again, I could make a choice. I can go into like despair and fear and like, oh my God, I'm going to die tomorrow kind of thing. Or I just kind of take it a day at a time. My husband and I checked ourselves out of the hospital because I was a liability. They put me on steroids, and I said, before we fly to Boston, because we were in Florida, let's go get some Cuban food. So we went to a Cuban restaurant. And what can you do? You just put one foot in front of the other. You're learning, and there's no point in going to fear. And I asked my higher power for help. And of course I made calls and talked to people, and would shed some tears. It's not like I'm a block of, I don't have any emotions. I always had faith that, the next right thing is just to do the next right thing. So we got on a plane, we ended up in Boston, and I had an operation that was 7 hours sitting up. And then I went to recovery, and then I went to rehab to learn how to coordinate my left side, and learn how to rebalance everything. And that's been wonderful. I picked up some roller skates recently, because I thought, well, roller skating, you'll definitely get your coordination back. And I started practicing yoga again and getting my energy back, because I felt like I was like 90 after I got all those surgeries. And then I was in rehab. I literally was walking with a walker. So I've had to retrain my body, which has been very humbling as a yoga teacher, former yoga teacher, or someone who taught yoga. And that's sort of the journey that I've been on. And, in the meantime, being married, having 2 children, growing a business, and really just, being grateful every day to be alive, really. And when I start getting flustered about little things or annoyances or, people, because you can't control people, right? So I wish you could. I just have to, once again, call on my higher power and remember the disciplines and the gratitude that is always in me, and focus on the light. Like, for instance, in this morning meditation, or was it yesterday's meditation? I don't remember, but I started thinking about somebody I'm pretty peeved with. Like, I have resentment toward this person, And I kept thinking and, thinking about it. And then it was almost like this dark cloud, like this negative dark cloud. And then I just had this moment of like, why am I doing that? And I just shift the energy and started to focus on gratitude and the people in my life who I really emanate a lot of light, like Melissa, like other people that I really feel a positive energy towards. And then immediately I felt this beautiful weight lift, like weight lift off my shoulders. And I was surrounded by beautiful light colors. And instead of like a rain cloud, and I could feel the energetic shift. It's so powerful. So it's something I still struggle with because my natural default would be negativity and despair. And so I still have to unlearn that as I move on, no matter what we've been through, breast cancer, brain cancer, or just like a difficult relationship with your husband or child or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's still, we can go to that place of light and love and just keep growing in it, because if we focus on the negativity, that's what's going to happen. More negative energy. So I hope that's helped some people out there, and feel free to, follow me on Instagram, Voracious Healing, Voracious Healing, or on Facebook, which is Vera Ventura. And I look forward to tomorrow's training. So thanks, Melissa, for having me. Oh, sorry. I muted you. I'm going to unmute you.
Everything you said is so on point, and I think mindset is key, because I think whatever we're struggling through, it's a choice that you have to make. Are you gonna, maybe allow yourself to have that little bit of time to take the time that you need to grieve or whatever, but then you really have to just make that switch. It's a personal thing that you have to do, and then just find those positive ways and those outlets, like you have found, to be able to get through this. But I have to say, if you want to follow Vera, she demonstrates, you will have a day of going through and just having a, interestingly entertaining time watching her progress through all of this, because she documents it all. And I have to say, I didn't know how you had the energy for it, because I'm not, dealing with half of those challenges. And I sometimes have a hard time getting the energy to do things. And you were such an inspiration just to see you getting out there and documenting it and showing how you're getting through it and everything that you're using and educating the whole way. And I also thought it was interesting to learn more about your educational background, and then how you've taken your experiences and then your passion for oils and yoga to kind of branch off and parlay into something new and different for your life. I love how we evolve, in our lives as women or as people in general, and how we don't just have to get stuck in one certain thing, but how that's just a piece and part of our, journey here. So I thank you so very much. And I wanted everybody to kind of learn more about you, and you're part of our group here, and I so appreciate it. And just kind of learn from your experiences and everything. So I think that's super powerful. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go for the day, and we look forward to hearing more from you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Eastern
Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a great day.